Hello, and welcome to today's monthly webinar. Before we get started, just want to go over a few housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded, and all presentation materials, including the recording and the PowerPoint presentation, will be posted on our website. If you would like to ask a question, please use the Q&A feature. If time allows, we'll jump into those questions at the end of the session. Today we have Matt Schoonover with Schoonover and Moriarty LLC covering strategies for success with the SBA Mentor Protege Program. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be with my friends from the National 8A Association. I'm excited to talk about really, one of the beneficial aspects or one of the beneficial programs for small businesses as they develop their business and seek to become stronger and stronger federal government contractors, and that is SBA's Mentor Protege Program. It certainly has, the program has developed over the last several years, transitioning from, well, starting, I guess, from under the 8A program, then developing the separate SBA All Small Mentor Protege Program, and then just a few years ago with the programs merging into what is now just SBA's Mentor Protege Program as a consolidated program. So it's a delight to be with everybody here today to talk about it. My name is Matthew Schoonover. I am the managing member of Schoonover and Moriarty. We are a Kansas City-based law firm that works exclusively with federal government contractors, particularly small businesses, but exclusively with federal government contractors on a lot of the issues that come into play when they work with the federal government. And so the point of this slide is not necessarily to show you my face, although I am vain enough for that to be an important purpose to me. It's rather to say that although I am an attorney, today's presentation is not intended to be legal advice. If you have questions, I certainly encourage you to reach out to industry resources, reach out to the National 8A Association, reach out to a qualified attorney who is able to help address some of these issues with you, because there can be some sticky legal issues associated with them. I also want to give a quick plug for our blog, govconbrief.com. There are a lot of great legal blogs out there. Our firm runs GovCon Brief, which we try to blog about a lot of these topics as they relate to small businesses. So I certainly encourage you to make GovCon Brief a resource for your business in your federal contracting journey. Brief overview of today's presentation. We're going to focus primarily on the first part here, SBA's Mentor Protege Program and some of the ins and outs of the program and key considerations for businesses as they think about participating not only as a protege, but maybe even also as a mentor. That's going to be the primary focus on today's presentation, but included with these slides, included with the materials that will be made available following the webinar, there's also going to be some additional information on both prime subcontractor teams as well as joint ventures. I usually like to talk about these various programs together because although they are distinct concepts, they're separate concepts, they often have an interplay with each other. That is, a mentor and a protege might sometimes enter into a prime sub team. So what are some key considerations as you're entering into a prime sub team? Also, they may enter into a mentor protege joint venture agreement. So again, what are some of those key considerations under SBA's regulations? If you have any questions on that information, again, we probably won't cover it today, but please feel free to reach out to me on any of these topics, as I'm happy to answer any questions. So breaking into it, I do want to talk about SBA's Mentor Protege Program. That's why we're here. And I'm going to differentiate SBA's Mentor Protege Program with perhaps some of the other Mentor Protege programs that are out there. The Department of Defense, for example, runs their own Mentor Protege Program. We're not really going to be talking about that program today. Those programs are agency specific, and those agencies often have their own rules and regulations and requirements that come into play when businesses seek to participate, and there can be some advantages to those programs. However, the program we're going to talk about today is SBA's Mentor Protege Program, which applies government-wide. That is, if you're wanting to contract with any with any federal agency, excuse me, SBA's Mentor Protege Program may have some benefits for you as part of that. And so we're going to focus on SBA's program today. And essentially, SBA's Mentor Protege Program is a business development assistance under which one business, oftentimes a large business, but doesn't always have to be a large business, provides small business development assistance, provides a small business, excuse me, with business development assistance. Essentially, one business, the mentor, helps another business, its protege, gain additional capabilities, gain additional skills, gain additional resources that are needed in order for that protege to improve its chances at competing for federal government projects. The goal of this program is to help proteges compete for, win, and successfully perform federal government projects. SBA's Mentor Protege Program is open to all small businesses. Now, as I mentioned at the outset, this program has kind of transitioned over time. Essentially, this started out as an 8A specific program, whereas in order to participate, your company had to be an 8A contractor. Recognizing the success of the 8A Mentor Protege Program, Congress several years ago directed SBA to create Mentor Protege programs for SDV OSBs, for WOSBs, for hub zones, and for small businesses. SBA, to its credit, rather than having 5 or 6 different mentor protege programs, essentially created a consolidated program, and that became known as the All Small Mentor Protege Program. You may have heard of it. I think it came around in 2016 when the All Small Mentor Protege Program was rolled out. And a few years ago, SBA combined the 8A Mentor Protege Program into with the All Small Mentor Protege Program into what is now just SBA's Mentor Protege Program. In order to participate in the Mentor Protege Program, we'll see this here in a moment, but it's essentially an application process where the mentor and the protege complete a mentor-protege agreement under which the protege identifies certain business development assistance that it needs, and the mentor says what it's going to provide to help meet those needs and a few other pieces of information. That is submitted to the SBA for approval, and that process, well, before the shutdown, really SBA was estimating with folks that it could take up to 100 days for it to review and approve the agreement. Oftentimes it took far less time than that, but it always kind of ebbs and flows depending on how many businesses are in the queue. That timing is important because oftentimes businesses form a mentor-protege agreement in order to bid on or to help the company bid on a specific federal government contract. If that's the case for your business, if you're thinking about pursuing a mentor-protege agreement with a particular government contract in mind, you need to be aware that that approval process can take quite a while, and it needs to be completed before you submit your bid. And so keep that in mind. You want to kind of work backwards from when you think the bid submission is going to be to make sure you're giving yourself enough time for SBA to review and approve that agreement. Once the agreement is approved, it lasts for up to 6 years. Now, we'll talk about this here again momentarily, but a protege under SBA's mentor protege rules can generally have up to 2 mentors over its, or excuse me, can participate in up to 2 mentor protege agreements over that protege's lifetime. So although a single mentor protege agreement lasts up to 6 years, a protege may choose, and a mentor may agree, to renew the agreement for another 6-year term. That would be the protege's second mentor-protege agreement. In that case, again, the parties are going to have to create an updated agreement that explains the assistance that's going to be provided to them. Regardless of how they do it, though, SBA generally is going to review the agreement for compliance annually. The parties have very significant reporting requirements under which the protege needs to explain to SBA the business development assistance that was provided by the mentor over the course of the agreement and confirm that the goals of the mentor-protege agreement are being met. And you want to take this requirement seriously if you are both a mentor and a protege, because if the agreement isn't being met, then SBA may step in and take administrative action, including perhaps terminating the agreement itself. So I mentioned just a second ago that a protege can have up to 2 mentors during its lifetime maximum. In general, a protege can only participate in 1 agreement at a time, in a mentor-protege agreement at a time as a protege. SBA may approve that second mentor-protege agreement to run concurrently with the first, but the protege will really need to explain how the 2 agreements don't conflict with each other. That is, how assistance under one won't conflict with the assistance that's being provided under the other, or how, notwithstanding the first agreement, the protege needs the second agreement to continue to develop its business in a way that the original original mentor cannot. So that's kind of the limitations for the protege over the mentor-protege program. For the mentor, the limitations are much less restrictive. A mentor just like a protege, generally will be thought to have only 1 mentor-protege agreement at a time, but SBA may approve the mentor to have up to 3 running concurrently at any given time. Again, SBA is going to want to make sure that the agreements don't conflict with each other. And this is especially important if the mentor is forming joint ventures and bidding with the proteges. There really needs to be a clear demarcation between the work that one mentor-protege joint venture might bid and another mentor-protege joint venture might bid. SBA's regulations have gotten more restrictive about that over the last few years, and so it may take a little bit of a closer look at whether it thinks there's a possible conflict between those agreements. Unlike proteges, however, SBA does not impose any lifetime max on the number of mentor-protege agreements that a mentor can participate in. That would kind of be silly of SBA to do so, because the goal is to encourage these businesses to help small businesses by providing this business development assistance. So SBA really wants to enable these businesses to participate as mentors as they want to. Now, theoretically, a business can participate as both a protege and a mentor at any given time. Again, the devil's going to be in the details when it comes to that specific company and perhaps their need for business development assistance in one area and their ability to provide business development assistance in another area. And so if your company is thinking about how might I best participate, know that you may not necessarily be limited to only fitting in the protege box or to only serving as a mentor, depending on your business's capabilities and needs. In order to participate in SBA's Mentor Protege program, for a protege, it's relatively straightforward. First of all, your business has to be organized for profit. SBA's regulations are clear that in order to get contracting assistance from the SBA, you have to be a for-profit business. And so your business does have to be organized for profit. The only other requirement for a protege is your company has to be a small business under its primary NAICS code. And its primary NAICS code is is the North American Industry Classification System code under which it does most of its work. Now, a company may have multiple NAICS codes. In fact, it's very common for companies to have multiple NAICS codes. The presumption is that a protege will apply for a mentor-protege agreement under its primary NAICS code. But the regulations say that a company can apply under a secondary NAICS code so long as it actually has experience performing work under that NAICS code. And really, that restriction is in place to make sure that companies aren't gaming the system to claim small business status when they might not really be a small business. So, for example, if a company's primary NAICS code carries an $8.5 million size standard, SBA doesn't want that company to claim a size standard with a $41.5 million size standard unless that company actually does work under that NAICS code. And so it makes sure to really limit participation among businesses that actually are small. Now, I mentioned a moment ago, you can be any particular socioeconomic designation. You can be an 8A company. You can be an SDV OSB, a woman-owned small business, a hub zone company. You can be a regular old small business. You can be any combination of them. You just have to be a small business under the operative NAICS code in order to qualify as a protege. Mentors, there's no such restriction. You can be a large or a small business. SBA's key consideration to determining if a company is eligible to participate as a mentor is going to be an assessment of whether that business has the ability to provide the business development assistance that it says it's going to provide. Essentially, can it act as the mentor? It may consider the company's organization and experience and its resources. It's also going to look at evidence of the company's good character. You know, if a company's up for suspension and debarment, odds are SBA is not going to let that company participate as a mentor. Similarly, if it's delinquent on its taxes, SBA is probably not going to let that company participate as a mentor. But mostly it's going to take a look at that assessment to say, can this company actually do what it says it's going to do under the mentor-protege agreement? And if so, regardless of size, SBA is likely to approve it as a mentor. Now, the heart of the mentor-protege relationship is the mentor-protege agreement, and SBA makes a copy of the mentor-protege agreement available on its website. And whenever I assist clients with preparing a mentor-protege agreement, that's right to where I head, because that's the format that SBA is used to. Now, the agreement calls itself a template, but it really is the agreement. And the heart of the agreement is right here in paragraph 1. This is a screenshot taken directly from SBA's template agreement. And in this paragraph, the parties are going to need to identify not only what assistance the protege needs, but the assistance that the protege, or excuse me, that the mentor is going to provide the protege and how that assistance will help the protege grow and develop their business. They also have to include a few other things in this provision, like benchmarks on how SBA will know if that assistance is going to be provided and when that assistance will start. So as an example, sometimes in my experience, mentors and proteges say that they want to team together and win contracts with the federal government. I think that that's a great goal for a mentor and protege, but we usually encourage them to think of things like, hey, we're going to enter into a teaming agreement under which we're going to bid on one or more contracts, specifically this contract. And if we're awarded, we're going to perform this contract in a way that helps develop the protege's business, and the protege is going to do X amount of the work and provide Y personnel, all of that type of thing, these type of objective benchmarks that SBA can look at to actually make sure that the assistance is going to be provided. Sometimes a protege may need help developing scheduling expertise or cost accounting expertise. And maybe the mentor is going to help provide training in that regard. And so sometimes we'll put in annual training hours that a mentor may provide to a protege under various topics as well. These 6 categories that are on the screen here, SBA has identified them as potential topics where assistance may come into play. Please know that when you're performing or filling out this mentor protege agreement, you don't necessarily have to have assistance in all 6 of these items. Certainly, the more assistance you identify, the more easy it is for SBA to understand how the agreement will benefit the protege. But know that moving forward in this, you do not necessarily have to have assistance in each one of these 6 areas. The agreement also has key portions in there, as well as the identification of any other mentor-protege agreements that either the protege or the mentor are participating in, and if so, how they don't conflict with this agreement. It's going to have key provisions about the relationship of the parties, wanting to make sure that there's not an affiliation between them, as well as notice provisions and various reporting provisions in there as well, and pledges from each of the protege and the mentor to actually perform under the agreement. Importantly, SBA is a party to the agreement, and so it's going to monitor compliance, monitor performance under this agreement to make sure that its goals under the Mentor Protege Program are actually being met. So why might companies choose to participate in SBA's Mentor Protege Program? For the protege, the benefits are easy. If they do it right, then the protege is going to leave the program stronger than it is when it enters the program. That is, the mentor is going to devote its time and its resources to help the protege develop its own capabilities and ability to win federal government contracts. And so the protege is really going to experience a lot of benefits, again, if the parties do this right. There are other benefits, though. If a mentor and protege have an approved mentor protege agreement, SBA is not going to find affiliation between them for the items of assistance that are in the approved agreement. And that makes sense, because if you're in a mentor protege agreement, the relationship is probably going to be pretty close between the companies, close enough that in some circumstances may give a thought of, hey, are these companies actually affiliated? And it would be kind of wild if SBA encouraged mentors to provide assistance to their protege on the one hand, but then on the other hand came down the road and said, well, because of that assistance, we think you're actually affiliated, and so now therefore we're combining your sizes. They're not going to do that. They're going to give you an exception from affiliation for the items of assistance that are in the agreement, and it's only for the items of assistance that are in the agreement. So I encourage folks that as they're working through their relationship, especially over the course of 6 years, make sure you're taking stock of the assistance that's being provided, and if necessary, update the agreement accordingly with SBA to have as much of that accounted for in the agreement as possible. In addition, a mentor may take up to a 40% equity stake in its protege to help the protege raise capital. That's oftentimes very beneficial to not only a protege, but also to a mentor. Sometimes a mentor might look at this and say, hey, what's in it for me? And if they take an equity position in your business, then obviously the more successful your business becomes, hopefully the higher the return on their investment. And so that can be a provision that helps induce mentors to perform. Another key benefit for mentors and proteges is the ability to form mentor-protege joint ventures. And for a mentor-protege joint venture, so long as the parties have an agreement that complies with SBA's regulations, SBA will consider the size of the joint venture based only on the protege size. That is, the mentor can be a large business. It can be Lockheed Martin and still be part of a small business joint venture if it has a mentor protege agreement and compliant joint venture agreement. That's a tremendous benefit for these companies as they are bidding on more and more of these larger federal contracts, specifically so that SBA is looking into the ability of mentor proteges to bid as joint ventures under GWACs, or at least it's talked about doing that. Now, right now, there's no change to that eligibility. If you're forming a mentor protege, you might also consider entering into a joint venture. That's a relaxation of the general rule, and we would talk about this a bit later, normally in the joint venture presentation. But the normal rule for joint ventures is both venturers have to separately be small businesses under the solicitations NAICS code. And so that rule is relaxed in the context of mentor protege joint ventures. Again, only the protege's size and socioeconomic eligibility matters. The mentors isn't considered. So that's a huge advantage for mentor protege joint ventures. Now, I will note that simply creating a mentor protege agreement does not automatically create a joint venture, just like creating a joint venture does not automatically mean you are in a mentor protege agreement. These are separate agreements, these are separate programs, and you need to make sure that you're doing both if you need them for bidding eligibility. Know that joint ventures are still subject to SBA's regulations. You still have to have a compliant joint venture agreement, and you still have to meet the various work share requirements that are going to exist for that joint venture. That includes the limitation on subcontracting, that includes the performance of work requirement, all of those things. And so those rules and those regulations still apply. This portion of the slide is a little bit out of date. I will say that the joint venture has to be in place at the time the joint venture submits its bid. SBA no longer does approve joint venture agreements. It does approve mentor protege agreements. So you have to have an SBA approved mentor protege agreement and a compliant joint venture agreement in place before you submit your bid. So again, keep that in mind from a timing standpoint. Now, just to kind of bring things full circle, I know we're running out of time here. I think SBA's Mentor Protege Program is a great program for proteges. At the end of the day, it's going to help a protege develop their capabilities and gain knowledge and resources from a more experienced company. But I always tell proteges they need to be careful with who they are entering into one of these agreements with. Again, it's a 6-year agreement, and proteges only get 2 bites at the apple. And so if you're a protege, you don't want to waste one of these agreements on a mentor that's not actually going to provide you the assistance that you're going to need. So make sure that the companies are compatible with each other. Ensure that there's buy-in from the mentor company itself. I've seen this happen several times where perhaps somebody who had a relationship with the protege leaves the mentor company, and after that person leaves, the mentor is no longer really committed to the relationship. So you want to make sure that there's corporate buy-in on multiple levels and that everybody in the mentor business understands the importance of these agreements and how they function before entering into them. And I tell folks, listen, if a mentor protege agreement is like marriage, you want to try dating first. Maybe enter into a teaming agreement with your mentor before entering into a mentor protege agreement. And so that way you can see how the companies work together. Because sometimes once you actually start performing a contract, it can be a little bit like oil and water. For mentor, there's benefits as well. I think, it's a great opportunity for mentors to kind of take a self-assessment to see what their skills are, to see maybe what they still need to learn, and maybe to take some benefits from their proteges as well. And the altruistic side of me says it's a chance for some of these companies who once were small themselves to make an investment into other companies as well. Nobody gets ahead on their own. And so oftentimes mentors say, hey, I once had somebody in this position who helped me out. Now I'm kind of paying it forward as well. And so there are key benefits there as well. I do encourage folks, though, don't just treat a mentor protege agreement as a means for winning a specific contract. I think when folks do that and the relationship breaks down, maybe they don't win the contract, or sometimes they do win the contract and now they have to perform, there can be some issues that come into play. So just enter into them with caution. So with that, that's what I have on SBA's Mentor Protege Program. I mentioned that there are going to be other slides at the end here on both teaming agreements and joint ventures. Please feel free to take a look at those. Again, they're not legal advice. If you have any questions about them, let me know. But as far as SBA's Mentor Protege Program goes, I think it's a great way for both proteges and mentors to help make sure that new businesses are gaining the skills they need to win more and more contracts. So with that, I'm happy to stand for any questions. I can take a look here to see if we have any. Some of the questions are asking essentially, do I know of businesses who may be interested in being a mentor? That is, I've got a protege here, or I'm a potential protege. How do I find a mentor? And I will say that unfortunately, there's not a repository that I'm aware of where a company can go in and say, I'm willing to be a protege, I'm willing to be a mentor, and then they kind of match. It's really word of mouth. It's really, who do you know? Who have you worked with in the past? Who's in your industry that you admire, that you think you can work with? Who maybe are you going to meet at the National Association, 8A Association Small Business Conference here in February? Those type of things that may be good resources for you as well. And so there really are a lot of great ways to find a possible mentor or to find a possible protege. I think that the best way is really with personal relationships. With that, I know we're kind of at the end of today's presentation. There are other questions I think that are in the Q&A. I understand that we'll go through those and get some written answers out to those as well. So maybe take a look for those here later today or sometime tomorrow, and we'll get that information to you. With that, I'm happy to hand it back over, as I know we're at about that time.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt, so much. We really appreciate your time today. As Matt said, we'll take some of these questions and get them over to Matt and send out the answers accordingly. As a reminder, registration for the 2026 National Small Business Conference is open. The 2026 event will be taking place on January 26th through 28th at the Gaylord Opryland in Nashville. We do expect to sell out both registration and exhibit hall. So if you're interested in attending or exhibiting, please register now. You can register on our website, n8asbc.org. And thank you today for everybody's participation. And again, we will get this information out to you as soon as we have it back. Have a good one.
Thanks.